How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, America. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Prayers for those in Louisiana. My parents are getting pounded by rain now as the hurricane comes ashore. For those of you listening in our affiliate Lafayette, just so you know, the eye wall is about 73 miles due south of Jeanerette and about 65 miles to the southwest of Morgan City. Almost about 100 miles almost due west of Grand Isle. So the rain is coming down in Louisiana now, and it's just going to be a mess. Now, those of you listening in Lafayette, you know, I can get it on the map here. So let me get Lafayette, heart of the city, on the map. And you got the eye of the storm is 96.6 miles due south of Lafayette right now, and the eye wall is wobbling, so it's gonna come in east of Lafayette, but y'all are gonna get a lot of wind and rain out of it. East Feliciana Parish, where my parents are, north of Baton Rouge, is just covered in rain right now. It's not super heavy, but the rain is coming down, and those of us in the east, it's going to we're going to get some rain out of this. Probably some of us in Georgia. My goodness. So my buddy Jason over in Greenville, South Carolina, just texted, says, is it true? Was Harris really wearing speaker earrings? No, it's not true. The number of people trying to come up with ways to suspect that maybe it wasn't as it seemed last night. Did she get the questions ahead? Maybe just stop coming up with excuses and just say the moderators were on her side and Donald Trump had Laura Loomer whispering in his ear ahead of time. Thus explains the debate. That being said, again, I cannot emphasize this enough. It was a bad debate for Donald Trump, but not a fatal debate for Donald Trump. And you must understand that it was not fatal. I heard Chris Wallace on CNN last night saying, "Oh, that debate with Joe Biden, that was just a monumental, disastrous debate. This debate, I think it was almost as bad." No, it wasn't. Donald Trump's not going to drop out of the race, and he's still got a chance to win. Why? It's the economy's stupid. But also, the Republicans appear to be doing okay in the fight for the Senate. Jon Tester is a pretty progressive senator. Tester has been a reliable vote for Joe Biden in the United States Senate. He's been progressive on trans boys and girls sports and trans issues. He's been a reliable vote on green energy and hurting the oil industry in Montana. He's been a pretty reliable vote for the left's agenda and is deeply out of touch with Montana. He's always portrayed himself as a good old boy in Montana and a check on power, but he is no check on power. Some of Tester's allies are sweating over his future after an AARP poll, which is a poll that is biased towards the Democrats, you should know, has shown Tim Sheehy ahead of Tester and sent both parties into a frenzy, prompting a top forecaster to shift the race in Republicans' favor. One of Tester's fellow Democratic senators called the Montana poll alarming on Tuesday. This is from Semaphore. But Democrats made clear this week they still think reelecting Tester is the party's best path to retaining control of the chamber, and there's zero talk of bailing on him. For all the speculation about whether Democrats should shift to prioritizing the defeat of Rick Scott in Florida or Ted Cruz in Texas over Tester, most of the party don't think so. Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin said in an interview that Tester's tough reelection breaks my heart. I've still got my fingers crossed. He's going to pull it out. A majority starts with the incumbents in winning these races. Nobody's given up on him. Facing the certain loss of a Senate seat in West Virginia this fall, Democrats either need to hold all the other incumbent seats or pick up a seat in a red territory to get to 50 next year. Even that would only be a majority if Harris prevails in the presidential race. David Bergstein, a spokesperson for the Democrats' campaign arm, says Senate Democrats are strongly positioned to defend our majority and have multiple pathways to do so. Democrats are still competing against Rick Scott and Ted Cruz. Contending their commitment to Tester doesn't preclude making a big push in those states, but that push has not come yet. Now, side note here. Bernie Moreno, nobody listened to me in Ohio, but I told you he'd be a weak candidate, and it turns out Bernie Moreno is a weak candidate in Ohio against Sherrod Brown, who should also lose, but Sherrod Brown is probably going to win because Bernie Moreno, like J.D. Vance, underperforms. J.D. Vance, listen, I do very much like J.D. Vance, but he was a weak candidate who underperformed every other Republican on the ballot. And J.D. Vance went to bat for Bernie Moreno, who, guess what, is underperforming all the Republicans on the ballot. Vance won, and Moreno should win, but Sherrod Brown actually has done a pretty competitive job of winning. That race is a toss-up, and Moreno, if the Republicans turn out in Ohio, can win, but he's weaker than he should be. Tester, however, is way weaker than he should be. And also, there's a wild card seat, Maryland. Larry Hogan is running in Maryland. He's behind in the polling, but Hogan tends to be behind in the polling. And on Election Day, people like him. They tend to vote for him. And there's a lot of ticket splitting in Maryland still. Most states don't have as much ticket splitting. In Maryland, they've had a pretty good track record of ticket splitting where Democrats would vote for Hogan and then vote Democrat down ballot. And it's very likely one of those things where there are people in Maryland who are going to vote for Kamala Harris for president and then say, but I like Larry Hogan, I'll vote for him. And he can be a check on Harris. So keep your eye on Maryland, wild card seat there. Sadly, to me, Dave McCormick is behind in the polling in Pennsylvania. Now, there hasn't been a ton of good polling in Pennsylvania. McCormick is like the gold standard candidate you would want to have in Pennsylvania. And unfortunately, right now, he's not firing on all cylinders he is firing on all cylinders, and he's not getting traction. And that, to me, is part of the problem. It's just, I'm trying to look right now. The CBS poll has Casey up 7. Trafalgar, which is a Republican poll, and they've not had a good track record these days, has Casey up 1. In Wisconsin, CBS has Tammy Baldwin over Eric Kovdy up 8. And has Slotkin over Rogers in Michigan up 7. The best path forward for the GOP continues to be Sheehy. And Sheehy is up 6 in a Fabrizio Binder bipartisan poll. The AARP has Sheehy up as well. The odds are increasing that we're going to have a Michigan pickup, or not a Michigan pickup, Montana pickup for the GOP. That's a good thing, by the way. That takes the Senate. But here's the thing. Here's the thing you got to know. When you talk behind the scenes to Republicans privately, one of the concerns Republicans have about Trump and the Trump campaign, in addition to their lack of a good ground game, is that Donald Trump's base are low propensity voters. And low propensity voters have a habit of voting at the top of the ballot and not going down the ballot. So Republicans are deeply concerned that Donald Trump's base could show up, check the box for Trump, and leave the rest of the ballot blank. That would be a disaster for the GOP. It used to be those low propensity voters voted Democrat. That's why Barack Obama could do well and Democrats not do well down ballot. It's becoming the Republican concern. So voters who vote for Trump need to stay and vote for the Senate and governor and legislative races. The Senate and the House. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, says he's convinced Republicans will win a majority of House seats. Mike Johnson is at this point about the only person who believes the House Republicans are going to keep their majority. I hope they do, by the way. But this again becomes a concern because of the propensity of Trump voters to vote for Trump and then walk away. The question becomes, do they stick around down ballot and keep voting Republican? If they want Trump to do well, they need to. They've got to protect Donald Trump. They got to protect him by giving him a Republican House and a Republican Senate. But if Harris should still win, having a Republican Senate matters. Chuck Schumer has said he intends to expedite the confirmation of judges. Now, this is a big point, and Mitch McConnell pointed this out. We don't have a defense authorization package ready to go. The government needs to refund the defense package. It's expiring, and Chuck Schumer has decided to elevate judges ahead of defense spending, and Mitch McConnell has called him out on it. Say what you will about McConnell, but McConnell understands the stakes here. And the fact that the Democrats have decided they got to put as much time into confirming as many judges as possible tells you two things. One, they're not sure about Kamala Harris, and they're pretty sure they're going to lose the Senate. And the reality is this, they need to lose the Senate. Because if Kamala Harris does win, there's nothing stopping the Democrats from getting rid of the filibuster. They've said they're going to get rid of the filibuster. They're going to pack the Supreme Court. That's what they say they're going to do. We should hold them to their word. That's what they say they're going to do, so we should stop them. If you want to save the Supreme Court, you got to save the Senate. You got to save the Senate. You got to save the filibuster. You got to save the filibuster. You got to vote Republican. The people of Montana may be saving our republic, and they don't even realize the stakes are that high. The fact that Chuck Schumer has decided he's got to expedite judicial confirmations, and here's the thing, you know what he's expediting? He's expediting district courts. That doesn't really matter. McConnell expedited confirmations for circuit court judges because the way the federal court system works, every state is divided into districts. Like here in Georgia, there's a southern, middle, and a northern district. They all have a handful of district court judges, and then there's the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals are mini Supreme Courts. So in Georgia, we have the 11th Circuit. That covers Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. So any decision of any district court goes to the 11th Circuit, which then goes to the Supreme Court. So McConnell understood you got to pack the circuit courts because the circuit courts handle all the appeals. The Supreme Court takes a select number of appeals from the circuit courts. So the circuit courts are mini Supreme Courts, and you pack the circuit courts with conservatives, then you render the Supreme Court less important. And McConnell did that. Schumer's not. He's focusing on district courts. Part of the reason Schumer's focusing on district courts is because there aren't a lot of Court of Appeals seats open, but also Schumer's focused on district courts because they don't have a big farm team for circuit court judges. Circuit court judges tend to come from district courts. The fact that Schumer's had to elevate these judicial appointments for district court judges suggests he's worried about control of the Senate, and he should be given the polling in Montana. Republicans, if you show up on Election Day, you got to vote for president. You got to vote for the Senate. There are 34 states with Senate seats on the ballot. If the Republicans hold Texas and Florida and their other seats, and they pick up just Montana, they're going to pick up West Virginia. If they pick up Montana, they're going to win the United States Senate. We got to win the Senate to either help Donald Trump fill courts or stop Kamala Harris from being able to enact any of her progressive agenda. AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry. Everybody's talking about it. Billions of dollars invested, so buckle up. The problem is AI needs a lot of speed and processing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud. Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, Databricks, Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/Erickson, ERICKSON. That's oracle.com/Erickson, oracle.com/Erickson. Go check them out today. Okay, I got an email, and I don't want to criticize this person, but a lady emailed and she said, when you call Republicans liars, can you please cite the sources where you're getting your truth? I'm not getting my truth anywhere. I'm telling you the truth. It's an objective statement. It's not a subjective statement. And here are her examples. Kamala's earrings. How do you know they weren't what some have called them to be? Who supplied you with your truth? She's asking me essentially to prove a negative, which, and I don't mean this to be demeaning, but it's kind of a basic argument of logic that you're asking me to prove a negative. You cite your sources. When I'm telling you it didn't happen, I don't have to cite sources. You've got to cite the sources that show that it did. The Haitians eating pets. How do you know they aren't? Where do you get your truth? Again, your truth. It's not my truth. It's the truth. They're not eating the pets. The video that people are citing is from Canton, Ohio. It's not from Springfield, Ohio. They're eating the geese. They're not eating pets. There's been no substantive verification of this. There's been someone heard someone say someone put it on Facebook. There hasn't been any truth. What about the earrings? Y'all, I'm sorry. If I've got to prove to you she did not have microphones in her earrings, I'm not the idiot. What evidence do you have that she had microphones in her earrings? Some crazy person online? Where did that person get their information from? Where did it come from? And this is the problem. Anyone can say anything, and then when you ask me, where's my proof it didn't happen? You're asking me to prove the negative as opposed to relying on that person to tell you the truth. So I want you to know that yesterday, Elaine, in Dubuque, an alien actually copulated with a cow in a field. An alien did. Now you go prove me wrong. I want you to cite your sources to prove me wrong, because I'm telling you an alien had sex with a cow in Dubuque yesterday, and I want you to prove me wrong. Please do that. That's what happens when you demand that people prove a negative. You can't do it, Elaine. You can't prove me wrong. Therefore, I'm right based on that logic. And that, my friends, is actually illogical. Now, what is logical is for you to go to Eden Pure Thunderstorms, EdenPureDeals.com, put in Eric3, ERICK3, and you can get an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack and save $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Eric3, ERICK3. What you do is you get the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, and it traps the dust and the pollen that's floating in the air, but it also eliminates the odors. Do you have dirty diaper odors? It'll wipe those out. Do you have pet odors? It'll wipe those out. Do you have litter box odors? It'll wipe those out. Do you have smoke odors? Someone smoked in your house or your car? It'll wipe those odors out. I speak of that from firsthand experience. You can plug it up with a USB cord, or you can even plug it up directly into the wall. It's EdenPureDeals.com. That's the website, EdenPureDeals.com. You'll see the discount code box right on the front page of the site. You put in Eric, ERICK, the number 3, Eric3. You get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. You save $200. You get them for less than $200. You start wiping out those odors. EdenPureDeals.com, discount code Eric3. Get one for upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your RV, your travel bag, wherever you need them. You can hold it in your hand. It's so small, and it wipes out odors. EdenPureDeals.com, the discount code Eric, ERICK3. Hello there. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425 should you wish to be on the program. Because people have been asking me about this, and I've avoided the subject for a very long time. It's time to talk about a particular subject that keeps coming up, and I've avoided it. And I've avoided it largely because I'm annoyed with it. But I want to make a prediction to you. I want to make a prediction. I'm going to predict that if there are no clouds between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. tomorrow where you live, so between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. tomorrow, if there are no clouds in the sky, I'm going to predict that the very dark sky is going to turn shades of blue. And then on the horizon, it's going to start changing to yellows and reds and pinks and oranges. And then everything's going to become a kind of golden color. And then it's going to start getting bright. The darkness is going to all go away. And the shadows are going to come back, and they're going to be a little long. Because I'm going to predict to you that the sun is coming up tomorrow. And I'm going to be right. I'm going to be right. You know, I believe Jesus is coming back, but he's not coming back tomorrow. And I can assure you of that. He's not coming back tomorrow. How do you know? Oh, I know. Prophecy still to be fulfilled. He's not coming back tomorrow. Soon, but not tomorrow. Instead, what's going to happen is the sun is going to come up. I am right, and you all know that I'm right, and you know whether you want to admit it or not, that Jesus is not coming back tomorrow. And it may make you mad for me to be that definitive because you are a true, faithful Christian believer, but you know in your heart of hearts, you're waking up here tomorrow unless you're dead. Which gets me to Alan Lichtman. Alan Lichtman is the man who supposedly predicts all the presidential elections based on an assembly of metrics. All Alan Lichtman is doing is he is projecting his biases onto candidates, and he has a pretty good sense of who will be perceived as the centrist moderate candidate and saying that person gets elected, and he has been wrong. He was wrong about the Bush-Gore race. And he's tried to make excuses for it, but he was wrong about that. And he was wrong about this race. Alan Lichtman has said the whole time it was going to be Joe Biden. Guess who it's not going to be. And Wikipedia has revised it to say, oh, he says Kamala Harris now. He says Kamala Harris now. Here's the thing that Alan Lichtman does. Almost every election is fairly obvious. There are some he's taken risks on, like Trump in 2016. But by and large, it was abundantly obvious that Barack Obama was going to win in 2008 against John McCain. The only people who didn't think it was obvious were the real true believers. I was telling people when they were running the Republican primary that the Republicans were going to lose in 2008. Do you know why I know that? Because I am a student of American history, and I know how virtually impossible it is for a party in the White House to win a third term. But I don't get on TV as a political prognosticator like that. I don't get on TV as the unbiased academic. That's what Alan Lichtman does. Alan Lichtman sells himself on this stuff. But it was pretty obvious Obama was going to win. And it was pretty obvious to me, frankly, that he was going to win re-election. 2016, I didn't believe that Donald Trump was going to win, but Lichtman, using his supposed keys to the White House, that Hillary's deeply unpopular, and sure, it worked. But let me give you what these keys are, and this is how subjective they are. After the midterm, the number one party mandate, after the midterm elections, the incumbent party holds more seats in the House than the previous midterm elections. 2, no primary contest. No serious contest for the incumbent party nomination. 3, the incumbent seeking re-election. 4, there's no party, no third party. 5, strong short-term economy. 6, strong long-term economy. 7, major policy change. 8, no social unrest. 9, no scandal. 10, no foreign or military failure. 11, major foreign or military success. 12, charismatic incumbent. And 13, uncharismatic challenger. Some of those are pretty straightforward, but a lot of them are also subjective. Alan Lichtman says Kamala Harris is going to be president of the United States. She could be, but it's a close election. It is 100% a close election. And I don't know who's going to win. And Alan Lichtman has a 50-50 shot at being right. I, however, am 100% right that Jesus isn't coming back tomorrow and the sun's going to come up, and unless you're dead, you're going to be here for the sun coming up. So I'm a better prognosticator than Alan Lichtman. That's all it is, y'all. It's not much more than that, but Alan Lichtman has a great PR team around him, and he gets on TV, and also he's doing something, you will note, that he wasn't able to do in 2016. Alan Lichtman in 2016 said it was going to be Trump, and the media did not herald him. The media did not put him on. The media did not give him all of the fawning infatuation. But this year, he's telling the media what it wants to hear, that it's not going to be Trump. And so they're advertising him that, well, it's over, people, it's over. There's no reason for you Republicans to go vote because Alan Lichtman says, and Alan Lichtman's always right, except Alan Lichtman's not always right. He was wrong about Joe Biden, and he was wrong about Bush versus Gore. He's just a political scientist with some, well, subjective views on things that he casts as objective. So don't worry about it. Now, apparently we've gone down the rabbit hole with people that, oh my good Lord, people are really just convinced somehow or another that surely Kamala Harris, really, this is a thing now? This actually is a thing? I thought my buddy Jason was joking. But apparently, nope, there are people who have convinced themselves that Kamala Harris must cheat. She didn't have to cheat with earrings, people. This, again, okay, this goes back to the hyper online right stuff. So there's a strongly held belief among some that Kamala Harris must have been wearing microphones as earrings to give her the answers last night. She talked in platitudes. She didn't have substantive answers. And really that she needed microphones to give these answers. She had two debate moderators helping her. I got to tell you, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of my silver bullet theory of politics. So both parties, Democrats and Republicans, they all want a silver bullet to stop the other side. You know, silver bullets, they stop werewolves. The Republicans, for years and years and years with Bill Clinton, they thought they had a silver bullet. They had Ken Starr. He was investigating. They were going to find the silver bullet. They were going to take out Bill Clinton. It didn't work. And then the Democrats thought they had silver bullets against George W. Bush. And they were going to stop George W. Bush. This one thing was going to wipe out George W. Bush, and it didn't. The Republicans, this one thing is going to wipe out Barack Obama, and it didn't. The Democrats, this one thing is going to wipe out Donald Trump. Ukraine, Burisma, whatever, didn't work. Republicans with Joe Biden, this one thing is going to wipe him out. Burisma, Hunter Biden, whatever it was, is going to wipe him out. And now Republicans saw Donald Trump have a bad debate last night, pay no attention to Donald Trump's performance. Clearly, Kamala Harris must have had microphones. Back in 2004, when George W. Bush was debating John Kerry, George W. Bush was wearing a bulletproof vest. This is after 9/11, presidential security. There was public there, and the Democrats convinced themselves that George W. Bush had to be wearing a wire. Look at the way it looked when the camera had his back. Based on the lines under his jacket, he must have been wearing a wire pack. There's no way George W. Bush could be as good a debater as he was. It must be a wire. They convinced themselves of that. And now, sadly, there are Republicans, because I'm starting to see the emails come in, there are Republicans convincing themselves without any real proof that this must be so, because they were convinced, they convinced themselves Kamala Harris was too stupid to have a good debate. And so what they're acknowledging is she had a good debate, but they can't acknowledge she had a good debate. They've got to explain it away to make it actually be she cheated. When you spend your time going down these rabbit holes, everything is always surprising to you, and nothing really makes sense to you because you're always convinced of the conspiratorial angle. You can't just take things as they are. You've got to insist there's something else. And the reason is because you can't accept you were wrong. You can't accept your first impression was wrong. You can't accept reality as it's played out, so you got to find an excuse. And essentially, it's pride. Pride is, of course, the original sin. Pride is what threw the devil out of heaven. He was convinced he was greater than God Almighty himself. And when you or I convince ourselves that something is so and we're wrong, and we can't acknowledge it, the easy thing to do is just to find an excuse to prevent us having to recognize we were wrong. So all these people who were convinced Kamala Harris couldn't put two words together and was just going to be a word salad, they saw the word salad last night, but she wound up winning the debate, so they got to find some other way to convince themselves pridefully they're not wrong. And the way they convince themselves that pridefully they're not wrong is, she must have been cheating by wearing earrings that look like microphones. Prove me wrong. Pride comes before the fall. And that's what's happening here. People are being prideful in their thinking. It didn't turn out for them. So instead of admitting they're wrong, they're trying to find some excuse to say they weren't wrong, she cheated. She didn't have to cheat. She had the two moderators of the debate helping her. She had the idiots whispering in Trump's ear, filling him up with a bunch of nonsense, helping her. Kamala Harris didn't have to have people whispering in her ear. She had David Muir and Lindsey Davis of ABC helping her, and she had the idiots telling Donald Trump about the pets in Springfield, Ohio, getting him worked up on that instead of a bunch of other stuff. She didn't need microphones in her earrings to cheat. And the fact that too many people clearly are obsessed with this idea tells you how many people are so prideful they just can't bring themselves to admit they're wrong. I got nothing for you. If you want to be convinced of insanity, I can't make you to be convinced of the truth. There are people who wish to be convinced of a lie. There are people on this planet who believe the earth is flat. And they do not want to be convinced of the truth. They wish to believe the lie. And so they've convinced themselves everything else and everyone else and everything they see is all wrong. And it's a matter of pride, ultimately. It is they're prideful in their contrarianism, and it becomes a professional characteristic of people in their pride to be professionally contrarian, to say, you say this didn't happen, well, I refuse to believe the truth because the lie is so much more fun to believe, because otherwise I might have to admit I'm wrong. Pride comes before the fall, and there may be a big fall coming for a lot of people soon. Now, you will not fall over with Old Glory Bank. They'll hold you up. If you want to go get a great bank from great conservatives, Old Glory Bank is where you go. OldGloryBank.com. They're by conservatives, for conservatives. You never worry about the debanking trends. You never worry about any of that sort of stuff. You go to OldGloryBank.com. You get mortgages, you can get loans, you can get great no-fee checking, no-fee savings. They got business accounts as well. Old Glory Bank is a fully operational online bank. You can even deposit cash at the bank with their highly innovative app. Their app, by the way, really good app. All you do is go to oldglorybank.com. You can get an account for your kids. You need a custodial account for your kids to make it easy for them to put in their babysitting money or their lawn care money or their chore money or allowance. You can deposit cash at Old Glory Bank. They got 88,000 retail locations around the country that'll take the cash and get it sent to Old Glory Bank. They make it super easy for you and your kids to get a great bank. Oldglorybank.com. Oldglorybank.com. That's the website. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. It is my bank. I actually have a checking and a savings account with them. Oldglorybank.com. You probably know Taylor Swift came out last night as a childless cat lady and endorsed Kamala Harris. So what? Y'all, the amount of statements, Elon Musk apparently wanting to impregnate her or something if she changes her mind, I have no idea. The just weirdness, and it really is just some weird stuff being said by people on the right about Taylor Swift endorsing. Who cares that Taylor Swift endorsed? Did you really believe she was even thinking of voting for Donald Trump? She voted for Joe Biden in 2020. And do you really think it's going to matter? I mean, that's the thing. My daughter is a diehard Taylor Swift fan. In fact, I have been to 4 or 5 Taylor Swift concerts and an Adele and some dude I can't remember. because I take my son to comedies. My son likes Nate Bargatze and John Mulaney, and we go to their stand-up. My daughter wants to go to concerts, and I've been to a lot of Taylor Swift concerts. And my daughter sent me a screenshot of Taylor Swift voting for Kamala Harris and said, well, I got to vote for Kamala Harris. Taylor Swift said so. No, she did not do that. She did not say that. She said, who cares? Not voting for that lady. That is what my daughter said. No, she's not voting for Kamala Harris because Taylor Swift said so. My child is a thinking person. You know who are the easily led people are the idiots who've decided that Kamala Harris was wearing microphone earrings last night. Those are the people easily manipulated into voting for Taylor Swift. And I suspect the idiots who believe that Kamala Harris was wearing a microphone are the ones who are most upset about the Taylor Swift endorsement because they're actually subconsciously thinking, oh, my God, if I'm as gullible as I am, surely there are people gullible enough to follow Taylor Swift. Celebrity endorsements do not matter, including the celebrity endorsements of Taylor Swift. They simply don't matter. Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney for Kamala Harris do not matter. Taylor Swift for Kamala Harris does not matter. Kid Rock for Donald Trump does not matter. Weird porn star OnlyFans girl on stage at the RNC for Donald Trump doesn't matter. These endorsements have no impact. You know what has an impact? Donald Trump talking about the economy and about the border. Donald Trump talking about the issues that actually matters. Donald Trump on a debate stage choosing to litigate crowd size at rallies doesn't matter. All it does is keep him away from talking about the economy and about the border. Donald Trump talking about pets being eaten in Springfield, Ohio matters because it keeps him from talking about the actual issues of the border and immigration. Donald Trump screaming about Vladimir Putin doesn't matter, except that it keeps him from talking about Afghanistan. David Muir asked him twice to talk about Afghanistan last night. Issue that he should be able to eviscerate Kamala Harris on, and instead he had to go back and talk about Vladimir Putin. He got played. And my goodness, the number of people who want to be played, who want to be lied to and want to believe the lie, because it's far easier to believe the lie so they can be duped in the future again and not have to take responsibility for their own failures in life. You know, I get lit up every time I say this. I'm going to close my show with this. There are people in life who fail at life. They fail at life. They make every bad decision, and instead of recognizing they've made bad decisions, they blame other people and say it was someone else's fault because they can't accept responsibility. They failed at life. They want other people. They want the government to bail them out. They want to blame somebody. They need a bad guy because they can't look in the mirror and say, oh, I'm the bad guy. They can't do that. And sadly, too many people are headed in that direction, and they'll never learn their lesson and keep making bad mistakes, including believing nonsense they read on the internet.